Hi, friends. It's Danielle, your favorite Leo sun, moon, and rising. And I am super stoked to talk to you about Jupiter, who is moving into Leo on June 30th, where it will be hanging out in that sign for 13 months. The last time Jupiter and Leo were together was back in July of 2014, and they were together until August of 2015. So before we even dive into the subject matter, I want you to take a moment to reflect back on that year, the summer of 2014 into the summer of 2015. What did life show you at that time? Where did things get a little bit more expansive, brighter? Where was there a part of you that was exposed in a really beautiful way? Because when Jupiter and Leo are together, the goal is to create the next tier of your identity, which often ties into leadership, which eventually moves you into your legacy.
Danielle Mercury, it's time for the show. Danielle, welcome to the show. Danielle Mercury, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
So Jupiter, if you didn't know, is my favorite planet. I love it. It's big, it's jolly, it governs higher learning, consciousness, travel, seeing things in a different way, good fortune, all like the best things in life Jupiter represents. But the thing that often gets misdiagnosed when it comes to Jupiter is that it's not all grandiose. Every planet, every aspect of astrology has its light and has its shadow. Some are more favorable in the positive light, and some have more of a shadow concept. Jupiter is definitely more in the space of what we would consider a favorable planet. No one really dreads when their Jupiter return comes around, or if there's a Jupiter retrograde. We don't all collectively freak out. All that to say, Jupiter can also represent too much. And too much, not from the space of you are allowed to be as much as you want, my love, but too much from the space of greed or ignorance or getting to a space where your ego is now taking the reins on Jupiter as opposed to a natural organic progression that happens with your soul coinciding with Jupiter's journey. So Jupiter, like I said, is the planet of higher learning, awareness. It's really all about higher consciousness. Jupiter's goal is to help us evolve, to make sure that we don't stay stuck, that we don't settle, that we don't stay in our comfort zone for far too long. Because if we do, that just creates more and more and more of a box around us. It creates more isolation. It denies you access to some of the things that your soul came here for. And so Jupiter wants to come in and be like, hey, I am encouraging you to take a risk, to try something new, to see something in a different way, to just go for it. And when we look at Jupiter through the signs, we take that energy of Jupiter being like, hey, take a chance. And then we relate it to the sign it's in to really get the personality and the theme and the texture and the design of what that will look like in that iteration. Because Jupiter purposely spends 13 months in a sign before it moves on to the next one. 13 is a master number. It's a mystical number. It's a highly feminine number. And when it does take its time in a sign because it really does believe that if you can work with Jupiter's energy in that specific way for that stretch of time, you'll be ready for the next tier, for the next sign. And I love that. I feel like it's the perfect window of time, like 13 months. I'm like, yes, I will take that assignment. Because sometimes, like 13 days, you think, yeah, I want change in 13 days. But like, is that really possible? And 13 months is just kind of the sweet spot, at least for me, because I'm the type of person that likes to get my feet wet, likes to get settled in, likes to marinate a little bit before I take the next step. And then I take that next step, and then I just want to be in that process. And then I want to have a little bit of a wind down or a little bit of an enjoyment. So 13 months, Jupiter is the sweet spot for that. So oftentimes in pop astrology, Jupiter is just immediately the go-to for good luck. And it can be. It's considered to be the Midas touch when it comes into your sign. So there's this thing called Jupiter return. So whenever a planet returns back to the spot it was in when you were born, it's called a return. So if you look at your birth chart and you look at the day you were born, see where Jupiter is. Me personally, when I was born, Jupiter was in Sagittarius. So whenever Jupiter is back in Sagittarius, I will be having my Jupiter return. All that to say, another way that Jupiter can be very favorable is if it's happening in your sun sign or your rising sign. And so because I'm a Leo sun and a Leo rising, Jupiter being in Leo is really going to impact my day-to-day life, sun, and then visibility. And the visibility piece, so if Jupiter is going to be in your first house, goes really well, again, with the qualities of Jupiter. So like I was saying, pop astrology will say Jupiter is good luck, which it definitely can be, but it's not blind luck. It's not for nothing luck. It's a luck that was curated because you were willing to evolve. You were willing to do something scary. You were taking a risk. You were able to see your blind spots. You invested in help. You decided to go for it. You took that trip instead of saying, oh, maybe next year. By the way, if you want to take a trip, well, Jupiter's in Leo. I got 2 for you, Asheville in Italy. And rumor has it there might be an 11/11 retreat somewhere too. But more on that in a few weeks. All that to say, Jupiter rewards your participation. And then it feels like you're on this lucky streak, but really it's because you were willing to give something a try. You were willing to do something different. You were willing to take the time to learn, to be in a different space, to be devotional to a different path. And that's where Jupiter can really like hook you up, so to speak. So when you're having your Jupiter return, like the real one, where Jupiter is legit, like in the planet it's in when you were born. So anyone that was born when Jupiter was in Leo, you are experiencing a year of really being asked to be like, hey, how ready are you to do something scary? How ready are you to make that change? And again, not just like jumping off the cliff, so to speak, not putting all your money on red or buying a lottery ticket, but like if the universe came down and gave you a magic wand, or a genie, the Jupiter genie came over and said, you have 3 wishes, what would they be? And then the 13 months become the journey of achieving them, of achieving those 3 wishes, of waving the magic wand on what it is that you want. Because Jupiter isn't always an overnight success. Again, how many months? 13. Very good. So it's usually that we don't see the full expansion, the full threshold of Jupiter until we're more so at the end point, until we're about 9 to 10 months in, that we start to see more of the fruition of it. And then it begins to wrap up because by that point, it's like, thank you, Jupiter. I got my 3 wishes granted. I'm so happy, blah, blah, blah. I'll see you in, 12 years. That's essentially how it goes. And then again, depending on where it might be hitting you in other areas of your chart. So if you're like, when I was born, my Jupiter was in Scorpio, this doesn't apply to me. Well, look to see in the houses where Leo may be. That's going to be your biggest indicator of where Jupiter is going to ask you to do these things, to look for a different way, to ask for, a little bit of help and support. And that's the thing. So again, it's not just being lucky, but it's like you're grounded enough and you're devoted enough to step into it. And then Jupiter can help. Then it can expand the things. Then you get success, the opportunities, the luck is granted. so to speak. So you want to see houses for sure. So, if it's happening in your third house is communication, using your voice, technology. Where could it help you in that area of your life? Let's say it's in your 11th house. That's community, friends. Maybe you're looking to meet more people. Well, you can't always meet new people when you're sitting at home in front of the TV. Go to that event, go to that workshop, go to Danielle's retreat, and you'll be amazed with who Jupiter sources to be in that room to meet you. That's the magic of it. And that's why I love it, because I'm a firm believer in co-creation. I think that's what makes life interesting and unique. And I'm a big fan of really beautiful surprises, but I recognize that part of it is from showing up. And so I love to show up, and I love to see how life and the cosmos want to show up back for me. And Jupiter is kind of the number one planet to do that. Thus, now do you see why I like Jupiter a lot? It keeps life curious and interesting. And, there's like kind of homework, so to speak. But then it's like, here's your reward. Go play. Go have fun. Which is really going to be the theme of Jupiter and Leo if you let it. More on that in a moment. Before we get into Jupiter now moving into Leo, so we understand the Jupiter assignment and kind of what Jupiter is all about, so to speak, how it really can just help you move forward and help you kind of take chances, and that luck, so to speak, just comes from your awareness and readiness that you've developed. So Jupiter over the past year, so basically last summer of 2025, it moved into Cancer. So Jupiter moving into Cancer is an interesting dynamic because Cancer is a little bit more of our introverted zodiac sign. It's the one that's going to be a little bit more quiet, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more on the space of how can I help? Cancer is the nurturer. Cancer is the one that is kind of like the mother energy. Cancer can also be the people pleaser. It can be the one that kind of always winds up being the one that everybody goes to for help and then feeling helpless in turn. So Jupiter working with Cancer was a really big opportunity for all of us to look at those places inside of us. Where does that part of you that is still leaning on perfection as a way to receive love, where are you still leaning on that part of you that is prioritizing other people? Where are you still feeling guilt if you don't make everybody happy all the time? I was going to ask you to look at that. Also, Cancer is very creative. It goes unnoticed sometimes because a lot of Cancers, or, if you look to see where Cancer placements are in your chart, you might see that you're a little bit quiet in that area. But my Cancer is like poets, musicians, artists, singers, chefs, interior designers, beautiful musings on life. Cancer holds all of that, but a lot of times because they're so busy helping everybody else, because they might be so locked into that people pleaser archetype, they don't even give themselves permission to release that artistry out in the world. And so that's what Jupiter could help with as well. So Jupiter was helping that Cancerian part of your chart where there might be hidden gifts and talents to allow them to start to come forth in a way that they could be seen. But in order to do that, you have to make space. And how are you going to make space? Well, you're going to have to prioritize yourself. How are you going to prioritize yourself? You're going to have to say no. And you're going to have to learn how to say no without guilt, which is the hardest thing. But at the end of the day, how are you ever going to fully be able to show up for the things that you want to show up for if you don't have full capacity because you're so worried about making sure that everybody else is getting their needs met and won't think anything wrong of you? That's not a way to live. It's not a way to live. And what Jupiter in Cancer was also showing you is like all the times that you have swallowed your own needs down deeper and deeper and deeper. And you just literally are at the point where your body has been digesting all of your resentment, passive aggressive nature that's occurred, all the times that you said yes when you wanted to say no. All of that's been living in your body. And this past year has been about extracting that, getting certain people and situations and dynamics out of your life so you won't keep ingesting these things. And then in turn, what that does is it opens up space for your own voice to start to come through. Your own inner voice, that voice that if you close your eyes and maybe place your hand on your heart and you lean in and you go down deep, there's a presence there. And that presence has a voice. That presence has a language. That presence has something to say. And the hope was that it got stronger over this last year. And if you're hearing this now and you're like, wait, but mine hasn't. It has. It has. If you have more awareness around some of this stuff that I'm talking about, then it has. It's done its part. But your assignment now is to fully release it in an unapologetic way. What's interesting about where we're going collectively is if you are a sensitive person and you are not willing to be unapologetic going forward, if you're not willing to come off as maybe a little bit of a bitch, it's going to be harder. It just is. You're going to suffer more. I don't know how else to say it. And I say this as someone that definitely moves through a lot of this stuff too. I definitely, I do it in sneaky. I'm a people pleaser in very sneaky ways. It's not obvious. And I've noticed that in myself, and I've had to call myself out because it is not fully giving me permission to live in a way that I want to live. And that's what Jupiter and Leo is going to be about. That's what a lot of what's happening in this new earth that's shaping is going to be about. It's a lot of the collapse of our current world is going to be about. Look, all these other people outside of us, all these people that have had power, that have done horrible things, they've been selfish. They've been advocates for themselves. Well, you know what? It's time for us to turn the tables and to start to be the advocate and start to be the aggressive one and start to be the one to be like, no, this is how it's going to go. And I promise you, it will be better. It will. It's going to be awkward. Might be a little quiet. You might have another voice being like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're making everybody upset. Blah, 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 blah. But this way is not sustainable. Not having boundaries, it's not going to fly. Not making time for yourself, it's not going to cut it. Not advocating for your needs, it's not going to help future generations. Think about it from that perspective. I don't know if you realize, but every time you deny yourself what you want, you're denying future generation to have access to that. But every time you say yes to the life that you want, you're giving the future generation that permission too. You are giving our children, our lineage, that nod, that it is okay, that yes, you can have it. You can have it because you want it, and there's a reason you want it, and why the F not? Jupiter's all about that. Jupiter's a little bit materialistic. Why not? Literally look at your objections. Look at the state of the world right now, and look at how you've been the good girl or the good boy or the good person. How has that made a difference? How has you being the good person actually helped our world? It hasn't. It really hasn't. It's made other people feel more comfortable temporarily, but it doesn't even really help them because eventually they'll just come back to their own shit or their own problems. So you need to take a hard look. I'm going to be blunt. You need to take a hard look at your life right now and really ask yourself, whose rules am I playing by? And why do I keep holding myself back and playing small? Why do I feel guilty for choosing myself? And how does this help anybody, including myself? And so you need to do the most brave thing in the world. Choose you. Choose your heart. Listen to that voice that's deep inside of you. Entertain your intuition. Value your imagination over some effed up logic that was fed to you. You are not that person that just goes along with everything. It's hurting you and it's not helping you. And so these shifts that are happening, we're in a 1 year. Everything is resetting. And not having boundaries, continuing to put yourself lower and lower on the list, that's not going to work. That's not how a 1 year operates. And so what needs to happen? And again, nowhere did I say this needs to happen overnight, but it needs to start happening. And Jupiter brought all of that up for us when it was in Cancer. Because the real core of Jupiter in Cancer is the heart. Cancer is governed by the moon, our feminine, our softness, our subconscious, also our heart. Okay, in medical astrology, Cancer is connected to the heart. The heart is our 4th chakra. 4 is a number of foundation. 4 is also connected to our angels, our guides. It was a reminder that you're not alone in this. You have beautiful, angelic, universal support. But every time you deny yourself permission to be you, you're also cutting off that natural flow of support that you have from the universe, from your team, from your guides, from your higher self. And that is not sustainable. And that is not part of what you signed up for in this timeline. It's okay that you got a little jumbled up in this weird world. I did too. But it's not okay to keep it going because it's not going to mean anything. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's not really going to help you at the end of the day. So anyway, back to the 4th chakra. What's interesting about it is the heart. You have to realize the heart is the most central part of your energetic field. So you might look at your energetic field and you might think, oh, the heart's a little high up. But if we look at it from the chakra system, if we look crown, third eye, throat, heart, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we could look at it from the other side of the chakra system, root, sacral, solar, heart. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, it's right in the middle. How about that? Isn't that interesting? So our heart is our centralized vitality, if you will. It's our life force. And Clay and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago. She wanted to learn more about working with her energetic field. And what's so interesting about our energetic field is it's literally malleable and it's made for us to make it whatever we want to make it. We're literally the designers in this, and our energetic field gets to be a full expression of whatever it is that we want it to be. So of course, when we're saying not creating boundaries, feeling guilty about stuff, I'm not worth anything, that's what your energetic field is now designed with, because that's what you created. So she's been working really beautifully on redesigning her energetic field so that it is more infused with gratitude and play and joy and fascination and really interesting people and opportunities and all those different things. And then what's interesting though is then she had a question. She's like, okay, every day I'm sitting with my field and I'm building it and I'm wiring it and I'm coding it. But now what? Or when's something going to happen? Well, here's the thing. Your job is to be the creator. And the creator sits and builds and designs and codes, okay? Then your field becomes so powerful, it becomes a force field where you're not the one forcing all of this. The field is forcing it out into the world so that it happens on your behalf. But when you try to force, now you're saying, hey, I'll take your job too. Hey, I know this, you're supposed to energetically do all this for me on my behalf. Well, why don't I just do it? But you're not as good as it. And then you get stressed and you get overwhelmed and you put pressure on yourself and then you give up because you're overexerting yourself in a role that actually isn't even really meant to be yours. So what does it mean to work with your heart space? And I love to work with my heart in a 360-degree way. So I like to imagine, if you can, close your eyes with me. And as you close your eyes and you envision your heart in the center of your chest, the center of your energetic field, I want you to imagine it as a beautiful orb, beautiful 360-degree essence. And your heart radiates out from the front, from the back, from the left to the right, all different sides, angles, up, down, across, all over. And as this heart begins to radiate out, I want you to feel it radiating out through your chest, through your physical body, through your cells, through your skin, and into this beautiful field around you. And as it moves through the field, let it fill that field with love, excitement, possibility, adventure, knowing how to prioritize, and you just keep going from there. And then when the field, every day you work on it, just like a little garden. And then what happens? The field has no choice but to force those things to happen on your behalf. Done. Beautiful. Chef's kiss. Okay. So this was a really big year for all of that. Moving into a 1 year of trying new things. The fire horse, let's accelerate. Let's do this. Let's take ownership. And let's work on our heart. And let's appreciate it for what it is. A raw, beautiful, vulnerable, messy vessel and portal. And if you can get into a space where you can trust your heart in its beautiful, imperfect ways, that puts you exactly where you need to be for the shift of Jupiter into Leo. Because Cancer, our heart, and again, all the signs, there's a reason why they have certain orders. Cancer moves into Leo. Leo is the lion. The lion is brave. The lion is bold. The lion is courageous. The lion is creative. It is a leader. Why is Leo the leader? Why did they get that? Why is Leo the one that everybody looks at? Because it's progressed enough from Cancer. It takes all of Cancer's creativity and love, and it infuses it in such a way that it leads with that. And so Jupiter in Leo is the lion heart. How lovely is that? So Jupiter in Leo is more about momentum, movement, and leading with your heart. Because now you and your heart are an ally, a trusted force field, if you will. And so Jupiter in Leo is kind of like this golden expansion. And Leo is, in my understanding, really the representation of these times. Because Leo opposes Aquarius, and Aquariuses are really beautiful speakers and motivators. They have really great ideas. And at the same time, Leo has presence and sparkle in a way that Aquarian always doesn't. Or Leo is able to, when Leo is more evolved and really in its full expression, it's able to meet a lot of different people where they're at. It's able to see a lot of different textures and experiences and bring the full picture forward, where sometimes Aquarius can miss the mark on that. That's also not Aquarius's full job, because Aquarius is also a researcher, sourcing data, connecting with aliens, leaning into the future, trying all those things out. So Aquarians are very busy. Whereas Leo is like, yeah, I'll perform, I'll play, I'll speak, I'll show up. That's Leo's role. Leo's role is to show up. And it's like it takes all the Aquarian data and then it computes it in such a way that then it can translate it to the world. So it really is kind of like helping with the golden age we're in. And then Jupiter and Leo is just only conditioning that expansion more so. What's also going to be happening in July is the nodes, our collective nodes. So our North Node is legacy, impact, destiny. And our South Node, which is karma, past lives, things we're unpacking, they're going to be moving into Aquarius and Leo. So the collective North Node will be Aquarius and the collective South Node will be Leo. So that's happening. So Jupiter moves into Leo June 30th, and then they'll be together, very easy to remember, until July 27th of 2027. Okay? Jupiter and Leo until 7/27/27. Ooh, I love that. I really like that sequence. That's Jupiter and Leo together. Then the nodes are coming in, and the nodes will start shifting July 26/26. Oh, how fun is that, right? So 7/26/26, the nodes go Aquarius to Leo, and then they're going to be together until March of 2028. So they hang out for about 18 months together. Having our collective node in Aquarius, Oh, I'm excited about it. But I'm always excited of anything Aquarian because why? Because I'm a triple Leo. So if I'm a triple Leo and we represent the Aquarian age, I love Aquarius. So let's be real. My favorite planet, Jupiter. My favorite sign is Aquarius. It just is. A lot of people will be like, "Isn't it Leo?" It's like, no, I am a Leo. I don't need to favor myself. Like that, everyone should favor themselves. So anyway, all that to say, anything significant that happens with Aquarius, I'm like a fan of. So we already have Pluto in Aquarius, and we are going to be coming up on, in the United States, our 250th milestone of when those guys created it. And whether I agree with what they created or not, there was on July 4th of 1777 or 1776. Geez, it would have been more fun if it was 1777, I guess. But whatever they did, July 4th, 1776, they did create a Declaration of Independence. I like that. I like the sound of that, Declaration of Independence. What if this year, 2026, the 250th anniversary of that, and the nodes moving into Aquarius, Pluto back in Aquarius for the first time since that happened, is our re-declaration of our own unique independence. So with that, that's very exciting. With that, though, also means more tower moments within our world. The collapse of what was, the collapse of what's been created since that, 250th milestone. And that's why things are going to seem sticky still. And yet, isn't it interesting that so many people are still finding a way to live their lives and to have fun? And you can say it's selfish and you can say it's ignorant. Those are definitely the shadow sides of Jupiter, like I said earlier. But also, what if that's just the rebellion? What if that's the way forward? Because guess what? If the world's going to fall apart, if the powers that be are going to do nasty, gnarly things, I'm not saying that I'm going to have a good time while they're doing it. But I also realize having a bad time while they're doing it isn't very good either. So you know what? It's not even about I'm going to have a good time while bad things are happening or I'm going to have a bad time while bad things are happening. It's I'm going to live my life. I'm going to make a Declaration of Independence for myself and live in this world in a way that feels on purpose and live in this world and make choices in a way that feel like, yeah, that's on the money. Yes, that's on point. Yeah, I'm here for that. And you know what? I'm going to have a little fun. Because why not? Creating suffering just because, creating disappointment within our own world, holding back, not doing things, not going on vacation, staying home because you're scared of what the world is doing. Like, you can't avoid it. You could try staying home, but what if something bad happens in your neighborhood? And if you had left, you would have missed it. You just don't know. So trying to keep the peace or trying to save yourself by always following what's going on in the world isn't actually the way. It's the other way around. What's going to save you is just reclaiming who you are and then making choices from there and just let it move forward. And yeah, some people might look at you and be like, who do you think you are? And I'm like, I know who I am. And I know I'm a good person with a good heart. And I know I don't deserve to stay stuck or suffer or not put myself in certain opportunities because I'm afraid. Because I'm worried about what people will think. Yeah, let people think what they want. But you know what? You also might start a movement. You might also get people to think a different way, which is also very Jupiter and Leo. So what would that be like? Something to think about. Okay? And then in August, we're going to have eclipses. Look, it's going to be gnarly. It's going to be a little crunchy. And that's why I'm giving you permission, though, to show up anyway. Because why not? And again, I love what I like this notion of, because we're doing it for our future generations. Think about all the times that you were younger. And Leo is the teenager of the zodiac. Think about when you were a teenager and you wanted to do something and your parents said no. Or someone said no. Or you didn't get accepted. You couldn't do it. That sucked, didn't it? It wasn't fun. Didn't feel good. So now we get to take that power. And we get to say, I can do it. I am accepted. I am going to move forward. No one can stop me. And honestly, I'd rather try on that world than the one where we were always told no. Where we were always told, nah, you can't do that. We were always held back. We were always told to play it safe. We were always told to settle. We were always told, get the job, save up for retirement. And look, I'm not saying be reckless. Please be responsible. There are still 3D things and parameters that are part of this existence that you signed up for as a human. Yet, can you just find that threshold where you're able to do enough of the 3D things to keep the 3D world happy? And then focus on making yourself happy and the people around you happy, because that's what the future generation wants. Do you want the future generation to also be told no all the time? To also be told they can't do that? To also be told that they can't have fun? To also be told that they live in a world where they have to play it safe? No, if you don't want that for the future generation, that means you don't want it for yourself. So stop doing it now. Ooh, my guides are feisty today with me. We've been delaying this podcast for like 3 days now. Every time I sat down to do it, they're like, not yet, Danielle. Not yet. We got to source some things for you, and you're not energetically in the state we want you in. I was like, all right. All right. So here I am on a Sunday afternoon. It's beautiful outside. And I'm here with my microphone. But I love it. It's great. I'm doing my Leo duty. Okay. So anyway, back to the eclipses in August. So August 12th. And then if you're going to be with me in Asheville, August 27th, we're going to have eclipses. So there's going to be a solar eclipse happening in Leo at, I believe, 20 degrees on August 12th. And then we'll have a lunar eclipse happening in Pisces on August 27th. So this will be an interesting one, because the one on August 12th happening in Leo is going to now activate this collective South Node that's happening in Leo. And our collective South Node in Leo is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, here's the thing. When Leo's in the South Node, like I'm like, what, how cool is that? I'm Sagittarius in the South Node, which that more on, I'm sure I've talked about that. Anyway, I feel like Leo in the South Node is kind of cool because it defies it, because Leo's going to find a way out. You know, if the South Node is about karma, Leo's like, I'm not going to sit around for this. I'm governed by the sun. I represent summer energy. I represent late July, August. I represent not having to be in school. Why am I in this South Node jail right now? I don't think so. So Leo's going to find a way out. Leo's going to find a way to be like, let's support Aquarius right now. And that's the thing, because Leo loves Aquarius. The South Node in Leo's going to find a way to support the North Node in Aquarius and be like, hey, like, let me help you, because I'm your biggest advocate. I'm your biggest, person to champion you. So Leo is, the South Node doesn't worry me, because Leo is smart enough and resourceful enough and able to get out of any kind of jam, so to speak. And that's what it's going to do. It's not going to let that affect anything. But what it is going to really push for is fun and freedom. Okay? Freedom and fun. So the solar eclipse on August 12th, I have a feeling that might get a little bit sticky with people that kind of run the world, so to speak, because guess what? They look at astrology too, because they know we're looking at it. They know it makes an impact. They know it does things. They know eclipses are literally doing something from it's not just a story. It's literally the sky is morphing and there'll be pockets of the world where it'll be visible. So they're going to be doing some interesting stuff with it too, and experiments and whatnot. So you just make a point during that window to be like, I am not going to buy into the narrative. And if something does happen, okay, something happens during the World Cup, if something happens when the aliens land, we will be okay and we will recalibrate. Also, with the aliens, like, look, they've been among us for a really long time. They're not going to make like a big grand like entry. I don't think, because they already have. They're already part of our ecosystem. I don't know if you realize this, but like the aliens have been with you since you've been born. They've been in our sphere. You've interacted with them, whether you've realized it or not. You have had contact. There may even be alien DNA in our bodies. We don't, they shapeshift, they morph. They could have had a good time with someone in your family lineage, right? So I don't think it's going to be this like big thing, but do I think we have enough awareness now and enough of a openness to embracing them more and integrating them more into our society, or even vice versa, depending on what they're feeling, sure. But don't be afraid of it, and just realize we are wired to come back, right? Jupiter and Leo is the energy of the comeback, especially for many individuals that are entrepreneurs, intuitives, and maybe over the past couple of years you have lost your footing, or business has slowed down, or you're kind of in a space where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I am telling you, don't give up now, because your comeback era is literally like just around the corner. And the slowdown was to give you some space to decompress and to figure out how you're going to up level. Do not look at it as my business has slowed down, I'm failing, I need to drop my rates. No, 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 no. If anything, the other way around. This is when you increase your rates. This is when you refine your offering. This is when you get more selective, okay? More on that too on another day. So these eclipses that are happening, I think the August 12th one is just literally going to be like, fight for your freedom, okay? Like, you own it. It's yours. Trust it and claim it and hold on to it for dear life. And then in 2 weeks, when we have it in Pisces, that'll be interesting because it's closing out a 2.5-year eclipse cycle of Pisces and Virgo. And it'll be happening during Virgo season. And again, it'll be happening in Asheville. We have one room left. And we are going to be... I was in hot yoga this morning, and we had a substitute teacher, and his playlist was like that indie folk rock, which always reminds me of Asheville and like the Carolinas. And, it was like Lord Huron, and it was just that vibe, like that Blue Ridge Mountain vibe. And I was just like, I cannot wait to be in Asheville on the 33rd degree parallel under a vortex and watching the lunar eclipse, because it's going to be visible for us at midnight on basically it's like August 27th into August 28th. Oh, I just can't wait to experience it, because what it's going to be doing, especially if you're going to be like with me or just in a space where you can experience it, or wherever it might be, it's closing out so much of what we've gone through over these last 2.5 years. Like, they have been weird, they have been gnarly, they have been all over the place, and yet they're done. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's like, you know what? Let's just move on. Let's continue from here. And then what will take over is Aquarius, because eclipses work in retrograde. So then that will fully activate next year in 2027. We'll have a full Leo Aquarius eclipse cycle because of that. And usually the nodes also coincide with eclipses as well, because we're coming off of the collective north node in Pisces and Virgo. So all that to say, August is going to be another loaded month, because we're going to have the eclipse energy, which is just kind of like everything I've been saying, like, where it's just like, enough is enough. I'm just ready to live life in my own way as a good person and advocate for that. And it's for me. It's for my loved ones, whether they realize it or not, and it's for the future generation. And maybe it's for the aliens too. Okay. Other things that I wanted to note about the transition of Jupiter in Cancer to Jupiter in Leo. So it's interesting how it's going down. On June 29th, we have a full moon in Capricorn. We also have Mercury going retrograde in Cancer. Then literally 24 hours later, or 36 hours later, then Jupiter in Cancer will be passing the baton to Leo. So literally 36 hours, our last 36 hours of Jupiter and Cancer together, we have a full moon in Cancer and we have a Mercury retrograde in Cancer. So what does that mean? Well, full moons will always be in opposition of the sun season we're in. So Cancer sun season, that means full moon Capricorn. Capricorn's a tricky sign, because they can come off as like very harsh, or very like trying to tell you what to do or how to do it best. And it comes from love. And there's a part of you that's like, don't tell me what to do. But then there's another part of you that's like, well, actually, if you want to tell me what to do, that wouldn't be that bad. And that's really what this full moon is going to be about. It's kind of like, hey, here's what you've been doing, like, not so great still. And like, here's what we need you to see. Like, even based on everything Danielle's just been saying, like, where are you still like suffering for no reason? And that could change if you just started creating better boundaries. If you just literally took time off from worrying about what other people will think when you take care of yourself. Like how bizarre is that we feel guilty for taking care of ourselves, that we're worried about what people are going to say about us in a bad way because we said, hey, I'm burnt out here and I need to rest. You know how bizarro that is? Okay, full moon in Capricorn is going to bring all that up. Full moon in Capricorn is also just going to be like, are you willing to choose yourself? I don't know how else to say it other than, if not now, when? And so it might feel crunchy for some people. You might feel a little bit compressed. It might feel difficult. It might feel awkward. It might feel like you might purge, literally. Write down all the parts of yourself that you're just like, I'm tired of betraying myself. I'm tired of putting myself down. I'm tired of living a life where I don't feel worthy. I'm tired of creating a field that's filled with nonsense. I want a life that makes sense, that feels alive, illuminated. So I want you to burn those things. Anything that feels like it's I'm going to say abnormal part of your life, because I literally had 2 abnormal skin growths, one on my neck and one on the side of my nose. Calling the one on the side of my nose, I'm removing a witch wound that I had, my little witch wart. But I realized, so when I removed them, I don't do well with Western medicine, especially like any kind of like Novocaine, vaccines. I have really bad side effects. So they had to inject a little bit of Novocaine into both of the areas, and of course they had a vagal. A vasovagal response, where you get really woozy and lightheaded. I had to sit down. I thought I was going to faint, the whole thing. And then literally that night, throwing up, purging, dry heaving. It was a mess. But unfortunately, that's just what happens with that. And I always forget. Like, I always think, like, this time it'll be different, or like I asked for just a little less than what they normally give. And of course, what's hard sometimes with Western medicine too, they're always like, oh no, you'll be fine. And I'm like, but I won't be fine. But then I'm like, well, maybe I will be fine this time. And then it's like, no. But when I was purging, like, especially when I was in like the dry heaving of it all, I was like, not only am I like releasing something big, skin growths are all around like your vitality and your life force, but it's also about feeling safe to be seen. And here I had 2 abnormal skin growths, and abnormal means like some kind of energy was inside of me that was trying to get out, but it couldn't. And so it turned into these like little growths. And I have had them actually for a couple years before I did anything about them. So I've been holding on to like 2 pockets of energy that weren't serving me. So releasing them was like a really big purge. So I found that to be really, really fascinating. And I feel like this full moon in Capricorn is very much that storyline, that energy so much. So like, what is your abnormal growth that you are like, you know what? I don't want this to keep growing. I don't want to keep holding on to this. I don't want it to keep being a part of my makeup, my image. I wasn't really subconscious about them, but I noticed them, and then one of my nose was getting bigger. I mean, it was weird. Like, there'd be times like where I would take a selfie and like it would create like a little shadow under my nostril, like in photos, and I would like kind of edit them out a little bit, or people would be like, oh, you have something on your nose. And I'm like, yeah, I know, So it's like, oh, I don't have to deal with that anymore, which kind of feels nice. And that's kind of like what this full moon in Capricorn wants. It's like, see, we're doing this so that you don't have to deal with it anymore. Yeah, technically it was fine. Technically it seemed okay. Technically you found a way to cope. But like, is that technically how you want to live your life anymore? No. And so you're better off without it. And then the Mercury retrograde in Cancer, I mean, look, there's the typical stuff. I actually did just make sure to get, I upgraded my phone. I made sure to get it. Literally, because it was like it was arriving on Friday, and then I got an update Friday morning, and it was like, it will now arrive like June 30th. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. And then literally like an hour later, it's like, it will arrive on Friday. I'm like, yes, that's what I asked for. So yeah, there'll be like the typical tech glitches. Don't feed into it too much, because the more we feed into it as a collective, the more it kind of makes things gnarly and makes that the truth. So clearly back up things, double check things, be mindful of what you're saying yes to, driving, whatnot. And I think that's the biggest thing with Mercury. Mercury RX, that's how we abbreviated in astrology, it's a prescription. It's a prescription to do things a little bit differently. So this Mercury retrograde in Cancer is kind of like, hey, any stuff that maybe you didn't get to with Jupiter in Cancer, this would be a really great time to do that with the transition into Jupiter and Leo while we're still in Cancer sun season. So it's really a great opportunity to work on boundaries, to open up your heart, to be creative. What if this Mercury retrograde in Cancer was about being more creative? Was about putting down the phone and picking up, a pen and paper? What if it was about, hitting record on your computer and starting to sing? Who's to say? Like, it's just about that piece of things. So don't worry about it too much, really. And we'll be fine. So, okay, that's the gist of things. I do have a workshop on this if you want to go deeper into the energetics of Jupiter and Leo together. I have sourced even more information around this, how to specifically look at it within your chart. There's more channeled guidance tapping into what will happen during this golden expansion and how you can benefit from it. One of the things I really like about my workshops, because there always is trance involved, trance is really beautiful, not just from a space of, and this is where sometimes forecasting or trance or channeling gets a bad rap. We look at it as channeling and trance gives me answers. It gives me clarity. But you know what's really nice about trance? It's really relaxing. It's really soothing because we're all in this really nice open state where we're receptive and we're relaxed. And it's just like, this just feels nice to be in this beautiful in-between. And maybe I'll receive some information and maybe some things will click for me and maybe not. And that's okay too. And that's what I love about doing workshops, honestly. It's my favorite part because it's also a little bit conditioned on everybody that's there. But then, of course, when you watch the replay, you realize that it's for you as well. So the link to that is in my bio. More on this on my Substack. If you're not subscribed to that, I would love to have you over there as well. And yeah. Cheers to Jupiter and Leo. I'm very excited about all this. Okay, real talk. When we're not geeking out over the cosmos, we need to move our bodies. Even Mercury retrograde can't be your excuse forever. I've been using ClassPass for years across multiple cities because, as you know, I don't exactly stay in one place, and neither does my fitness routine. So with no recurring fees, no being locked into one studio, no surprise charges, just flexibility, I think that ClassPass knows my love language. And it's a lifesaver when you travel. You open the app, you find a class near you, done. No excuses, no I couldn't find a gym energy. When you sign up through the link in the show notes, you get 20 free credits to start. That's your first few classes on me. Well, technically on ClassPass, but you know what I mean. Link is in the show notes. Go get your credits, go move your bodies, listen to this podcast while you work out, and the stars will still be here when you get back.